All right. So, good morning, everyone, and good afternoon to all of you who are joining us from different parts of the world, especially the GCC. My name is Amit. I work here as a vice president for the corporate services team. I head the corporate services team here in Saudi Arabia. My colleague Aditya will introduce himself.
Uh, Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us on this Thursday. My name is Aditya, and I am a legal consultant in the corporate services team, and very happy to be here discussing how to set up a business and the challenges associated with it.
Right. So before we start the presentation, during the presentation, if any of you have any questions, please feel free to drop those questions on the comment box, and we'll be happy to pick those questions up and answer in case, if the time permits. Now, today's topic is all about how to choose the right company structure and license for your businesses in Saudi Arabia. Very, very crucial point of discussion because the processes here in the kingdom are quite comprehensive. They are digital, though everything is connected to each other, but it's very, very essential to know what structure, what license types you should basically choose so that your journey in the kingdom begins smoothly and continues smoothly. Before I dive into the topic, a little bit about Task Corporate Services. So we've been in the kingdom for over 10 years now. Um, Basically, we started off early in 2014, predominantly as an employer of record company. Over a period of time, we dived into the corporate services arena. uh, Today in corporate services, we do company setup wherein we help companies set their shop here in the kingdom. Second, we have comprehensive solutions around compliance, payroll management, premium Ikama services, and other ancillary services related to compliance. Uh, we work and operate out of a technology platform which was in-house developed by our technology team. Very proud of our customer NPS, which sits at 77%, and a global outreach with 35 people working in-house within the corporate services team and partnership across 91 countries across the globe. Uh, I'd like to show you some statistics over here, and these are some recent studies which our teams did. Um, in 2024, there are 540 regional headquarters which has been opened in Saudi Arabia. And if you see the comparison between the 2023 analysis and 2024 analysis, in 2023, there were 8,398 licenses which were basically given by MISA to different organizations. Wherein today's study, 2024, we have data until October of 2024, sorry, August of 2024, wherein from Jan to August, we have now 8,333 licenses which have been established. So the sheer number and the increase of numbers tells you a lot about what's happening in the market. Um, Furthermore, study shows the type of companies which are being offered. So if you look sorry, if you look towards the right side of your screen, manufacturing companies contribute up to 30% of the licenses. Then you have financial and insurance companies, BFSI, which is at 25%. Construction is 15%, and retail, which is now picking up, is at 8%. Overall, starting from 2021 to 2023, the kingdom has overachieved the total FDI targets. When if you see 190% overachievement in 2021, 95% in 2022, and 16% and upwards in 2023. The numbers for 2024 has not been floated yet, but we will share those numbers through our communication channels to you whenever it is available. Uh, Now, let's dive into the topic. Choosing the right structure for your business. So here, my colleague Aditya will take over and will take you through the different type of structures, ownership, and the liabilities which are required for different entities.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, just to dive into it straight away, I'm sure most of you are familiar with the major types of company setup structures that you can adopt. So, just for those of you who aren't, I'm going to be a little bit granular over here. So, a foreign company branch, for example, is basically an extension of a international entity. So if you are a company based in the UAE or in Egypt or in India, and you want to set up a branch to basically operate commercially within the kingdom, that branch is viewed as an extension of the parent entity. Therefore, any liabilities that the branch incurs will go straight to the parent entity, and there is no concept of separate legal entity. A regional headquarters is a new sort of structure that has been floated in Saudi Arabia, where essentially you, if you have two or more branches uh, in various countries and you have a global headquarters, then you are able to set up a regional headquarters in Saudi Arabia. The point of the regional headquarters we will discuss in detail later, but this is very different from the other company structures that we're discussing here. A limited liability company is a fairly simplistic form that exists across the world. We have it is essentially a company with a limited number of shareholders, which works on the concept of limited liability. So the liabilities of the company are different from the liabilities of the owner. Then we come to a joint stock company, which is basically what you would view as a public entity in the Western world or in India, and is referred to as a public joint stock company in the UAE. General partnership and limited partnership are partnership models wherein you have an agreement between two or more parties to set up an entity together. The general partnership, in the general partnership, you have unlimited liability for the partners. So if the business is unable to clear its dues, then the partners' assets can be seized in order to clear the dues of the company. In a limited partnership, the limited partner will have limited liability. So that is to say, if the partnership cannot clear its dues, the partner is not liable for those dues. But if you can still have general partners in a limited partnership, and those partners will be liable for the liabilities of the company. For those who want to set up a joint stock company but don't want to have the reporting requirements that are associated with it. So now joint stock companies are subject to additional stringent requirements because you can essentially have the public's money be invested in these companies. So you can create a simplified joint stock company where the reporting requirements are less stringent, but then you are not able to solicit the money of the public. You're not able to be listed on a stock exchange. There are certain technicalities that go into forming one of these. A one-person company is where the parent entity or shareholder owns the entire company. There's no second shareholder. So here you do have separate legal entity wherein the owner is not liable for the debts of the parent company beyond what has been invested into the company, but you're essentially not able to bring on other partners to into the business in the future. So it offers slightly less flexibility in that sense. If you wanted to bring on partners, then you would have to change the structure from a one-person company to one of the other structures that we mentioned about. Moving on, so we were discussing the regional headquarters program. Now, in the kingdom, the regional headquarters program was launched with a lot of fanfare, and there are several incentives that have been granted to regional headquarter companies. Amongst them, you have income tax exemption for up to 30 years. So, for 30 years, you would not pay income tax within the kingdom on eligible activities. What those eligible activities are, we will come to in a little bit. There is also something in the kingdom known as withholding tax. So essentially, where you have any foreign company that it requires payment of a Saudi company or a Saudi person, the Saudi entity making the payment is required to withhold 20% of that payment and deposit that with the taxation authorities in Saudi. The point of this is that if as a entity sitting in the UAE, you are expecting a payment of say 100 dirhams from the Saudi entity, the Saudi entity will actually need to make a payment of 125 so that when it withholds 20% of the payment, the actual payment that reaches the UAE entity is 100. So this makes businesses outside the kingdom far less competitive when compared to their peers within the kingdom. Now, withholding tax is something that you would be exempt from on dividends as well if you're setting up within the kingdom. So, if you set up as a limited liability company, for example, and your parent entity is based somewhere else in the world, then all dividend payments that you're making, which is essentially like profit that you're repatriating to the parent entity, is subject to a 5% withholding tax. If you set up as an RHQ, those payments are subject to 0% withholding tax. Now, when it comes to the income tax exemption, I had mentioned that those income tax exemptions are only on eligible activities. So, what is an eligible activity? A regional headquarters is basically designed to be the back office, your back office within the region. It is not designed to be a commercial center. So essentially, when you are making sales or invoicing clients, that is not an eligible activity. That activity is still subject to tax. However, say you have accounting operations or HR operations that you want to move to the kingdom, they can be set up in an RHQ. And then the RHQ would basically bill the entity it is providing those services for. So to illustrate this, I'm going to give a little bit of an example. If anyone has any uh, further questions, I would be happy to take it. Uh, let's say that I have a company based in the UAE. That company is making 2 million in revenue, and the back office functions are contributing to about 1 million in terms of costs. I move those back office costs to my regional headquarters in Riyadh. Now, the Riyadh entity is incurring 1 million in cost, but it will bill the UAE entity for the services that it's providing. So it would essentially bill the UAE entity 1.25 million or something along those lines based on transfer pricing guidelines. Therefore, the profit incurred by the UAE entity would come down, and the profit generated by the regional headquarters would be making up that shortfall. But the profit generated by the regional headquarters is not subject to tax. So your overall tax liability would come down. This is a very attractive option for larger companies with large back office functions, but requires you to fulfill certain mandatory functions and certain optional activities within the kingdom itself. So you have to be doing certain activities. There is like, if you are not, then you don't qualify as a regional headquarters. One of the newest initiatives taken by the Saudi government is actually to set up special economic zones. There are five that have already been set up: the King Abdullah Economic City Special Economic Zone, the Jazan SEZ, the Riyadh Integrated Special Logistics Zone, the Cloud Computing SEZ, and Ras Al Khair SEZ. Now, some of these are for general companies, but the Riyadh Integrated Special Logistics Zone and the cloud computing SEZ are for specific sectors, and they offer very attractive exemptions, discounts, rates that we will come to. So, in terms of what they offer, there is tax incentives, there are operational advantages. So, for the cloud computing SEZ, for example, you get very favorable rates on electricity, on internet, and within the special integrated logistics zone, you are not subject to VAT on payment on transactions which happen within the SEZ itself. So there are like it gives you operational advantages over your peers who are not located in the special economic zone. It also offers incentives in terms of the capital and profit repatriation, like I had been talking about with this with the RHQ. And here are the benefits based on the type of the SEZ that you may be looking at. So the King Abdullah Economic City Special Economic Zone, for example, offers 5% corporate tax as opposed to 20% for mainland entities within the region. 0% withholding tax on repatriation of profits, much like the RHQ program, VAT on all intra-SEZ goods, and flexible regulations on foreign talent acquisition during the first 5 years. So within the kingdom, there is something called Saudization, which means that you will need to employ a certain number of Saudi nationals based on the type of activity that you are looking to perform within the kingdom and based on the functions that you're hiring for. These are regulations that you would be exempt from under the RHQ program and to certain extent exempt from under the SEZ program as well. If you're looking for information as to the specific exemptions for one of these SEZs or the RHQ, you can book a meeting with us at the end of this, and we'll be happy to take you through it in detail. The each of these special economic zones also has focus sectors that you can see over here within the table. Now, just because you are not a member of one of these sectors does not mean you may not be eligible to set up within the SEZ, but there may be certain exemptions granted to those within these sectors that you may not be eligible for. What are these exemptions? So the Riyadh Integrated Special Logistics Zone, for example, has recently come out with guidelines as to who is eligible to set up. So there are things like you need to be one of the top 500 logistics providers. Now, say you are just outside those top 500 logistic providers or nowhere close. If you fall within the consumer products, aerospace, or luxury goods sectors, you can apply for an exemption, and that exemption is more likely to be granted than if you are not part of one of these sectors. So it is something to consider when you look at setting up in one of these SEZs, whether you fall under the focus sectors for any one of these SEZs, because then you may be granted certain exemptions that others may not be able to obtain. In terms of the benefits, we've already gone through majority of them. The benefits that I laid out for the King Abdullah Economic City SEZ are much the same as you would get for the Ras Al Khair SEZ and the Jazan SEZ. But like I had mentioned earlier, the cloud computing SEZ and Riyadh Integrated Special Logistics Zone have slightly different benefits, which are more attractive to those within those industries. So, how does one go about setting up within these SEZs? There is certain documentation that is required on your part, but it is also important to note that as of right now, for the cloud computing SEZ and the Jazan SEZ, for example, there are no detailed regulations available. It has to be done on a case-to-case basis by liaising with the SEZ authority to set up within those SEZs. The Riyadh Integrated Special Logistics Zone, for example, has detailed regulations. You can go through them, see if you qualify. If you don't apply for an exemption, the entire process is laid out. The timelines are laid out. It is all very clear. Now, this was all about choosing a structure. But once you choose a structure, you also need to choose a license. So the first step for a foreign commercial entity within within KSA is to apply to MISA for a foreign investor license. The license can be of primarily 10 types. The first four you see over here: the services license, the commercial license, the industrial license, the real estate license. You have several other license types that are mentioned on subsequent slides that we will get to. But essentially, what you're looking at over here is a license based on the type of business activity that you're looking to perform within the kingdom, and then certain requirements that will be placed on you based on the license type that you're choosing. So, for example, the services license, which is the most popular license by far within the kingdom right now, it has a requirement of 50,000 riyals to be your basic capital investment to begin, which is not much. However, the commercial license requires you to invest 30 million to set up within the kingdom. If you are a 100% foreign owned entity, it also has a further requirement of 170 million riyals over the course of the next 5 years. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are asking, if it's so simple to get a services license and so difficult to get a commercial license, why would I ever go with the commercial license? The simple fact of the matter is that if you are looking to buy and sell goods within the kingdom, you fall under the commercial license category. A services license would only entitle you to provide services within the kingdom. If you are looking to provide manufacturing, like if you are looking to set up a manufacturing facility, you will have to go with an industrial license. These are the basic uh, classifications that you have to follow. If you're looking to build real estate, you fall within the real estate license category. And once again, you're subject to a minimum investment requirement of 30 million. So you can see the requirements for each of these licenses listed below. If you would like, we're going to come to it subsequently, but we also have a detailed guidebook which goes into far more detail regarding all of these license types. The next four license types are temporary licenses, mining licenses, agricultural licenses, and economic liaison license. An agricultural license is required if you're looking to uh, d- engage in agriculture. So if you're looking to buy farmland, you're looking to cultivate it, you fall within the agricultural license. Mining license is fairly self-explanatory. If you're looking to mine within the kingdom, you will need a mining license. Now, if you're only looking to set up for a limited duration, you can apply for a temporary license, and upon the expiry of the temporary license, you will have to decide whether to apply for a permanent license under one of the other categories or exit the kingdom. The last two license types are professional licenses and scientific and technical office license. The scientific and technical office license, if I recall, based on the 2023 stats, was one of the least popular licenses. There were only, I think, two issued. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time going into that. But a professional license would be of interest to a lot of you. Uh, the professional license is similar to a services license. However, when you have a service that is highly technical. Now I'm talking like legal services or some other service like that, which requires you to register with bodies, corporate, in order to ascertain that you're qualified to provide those services. You fall under the professional license category. The professional license has certain requirements of Saudi national shareholding, number of years that you've been in operation outside of the kingdom, which is far more stringent. So for most businesses, as long as you have 1 year's audited financial statement, you are good to operate within the kingdom. However, for a professional license, you will need to have operated for, I believe it was 7 or 8 years outside of the kingdom, and then your license application will be considered. So it's far more stringent because the services being provided over here are highly technical, and they want to ensure that the people providing these services are competent, qualified individuals. One of the biggest problems for the people we've spoken to, clients, potential clients, is that most corporate service providers actually only assist you until the point where you obtain the MISA license, you bring your general manager within the country, and then you open your bank account. Most people investing in the kingdom are under the false apprehension that they are at that point ready to operate within the kingdom. That is true of a services license, but there are several other license types where that is not true. So, one of the examples that we have over here, and we have far more in our guidebook in case you would like to go through these examples in your own time, is setting up a tourism company. Now, a tourism company, in most cases, like it depends on the specific activity that you're looking to perform within the kingdom, but let's say you're a e-commerce travel booking website. You would need a simple services license from MISA. You would then onboard your GM, you would open your bank account, but then you would need to deal with the Ministry of Tourism within Saudi Arabia. Now, the Ministry of Tourism offers its own licenses for businesses within the kingdom to ensure that there are no unlicensed service providers that take customers for a ride. There are four different license types that they offer: a general travel services license, a tour operations license, a travel agencies license, and an accommodation booking license. They provide specific guidelines as to what services each of these licenses entitles you to operate. But most corporate service providers will have exited by this point and will not be assisting you in obtaining one of these licenses from the Ministry of Tourism in order to operate within the kingdom in a fully compliant manner. That is where task is very different. We help you end to end. We not only help you with obtaining the bank account and setting up with your MISA license. We also help you in obtaining these other licenses from the ministries within the kingdom. We help you with your compliance year on year. We manage portals. We do everything that is necessary for you to remain compliant within the kingdom. Now, the approval process for this license has certain requirements placed on the applicant. So you will need to be within the commercial register, which you will be once you obtain your MISA license. You will need to demonstrate that you have the right to the brand name that you're planning to use. You will need to provide certain financial guarantees for two of these license types, not for all. And those financial guarantees are only used to basically ensure that any customers who are duped can get restitution from the ministry by letting the ministry know what happened, and then the ministry will encash these guarantees. Similarly, if the ministry places certain fines on you and you don't pay those fines, then the financial guarantee is used to make sure that your liabilities are covered. And you will also have to provide certain online service links. So basically, like you will need a website if you're a tourism. I mean, that's a basic requirement in this day and age. So you just have to provide those details to the Ministry of Tourism. I'm going
So
to
to
hand over to Amit over here to discuss the guidebook
Thank you.
in
So
detail.
to summarize a bit about what Aditya spoke about, and Aditya, thank you very much, very clear. When you look at the whole process of setting up an organization, from the time of receiving the investment license to the MOCI journey, Ministry of Commerce and Industries journey, is pretty smooth. However, the actual work starts after that. Um, I'll not be wrong in saying that till the time you receive your Ministry of Commerce CR, it's only 30% of the work. The rest 70 lies on how do you make your company active, starting from onboarding the general manager, leading to setting up of all the portals. So I'll just pause here for 10 seconds so that you can scan and download the guidebook, and we can then move on to the next topic. Right. Now, let's have a look at our product called Incorpoify. Now, before I deep dive into Incorpoify and show you, how our customer life cycle is managed, let me just give you a history about why we came about, developing this product called Incorpoify. Now, you have to understand that today, when you form an entity in Saudi Arabia, immaterial of the type of the entity, you have to do 170 plus transactions. Now, some of these transactions are one time, some are repetitive, some are recurring. Um, Now, it's very important for you to be on track from the get-go because it matters at the end of the day because it's related to compliance, it's related to an entity that you're trying to form in the kingdom. So we realized while forming entities early in 2022 that it's extremely important that we came about and we develop a product which allows customers to request, track, and interact with our GR executives. So without further ado, let's have a look at Incorpoify. Now, once you log into your screen, this is what you would see, which says, welcome to Incorpoify. And right at the bottom, you would see the rocket icon, which when you click, the next screen would be a small form which you have to fill, which will have details like the type of entity that you're trying to form and the name of your business. As an example, let me write the name of the company that I represent, which is Task Outsourcing, and the legal entity type, we'll take it as a service license because this is one of the most common licenses as we discussed early in our meeting, right? Let's look at service license and click on submit and let's see what happens. Right, give it maybe 5 more seconds. There you go. Now your incorporation journey has started with Task. Now, this screen is the incorporation dashboard, which is the life cycle of your company or the life cycle of the journey that we will take. If you need any updates, you simply click on the update tab, and then you see that the assignee is a business owner and what action is required from you as an assignee. Simply put it, the first action would be to upload all the documents which are required by MISA for incorporating your business. We will put the list of documents. You simply click on upload the documents, and if you want to interact with us, you interact with us via this system. Let me write an email to myself, dear Amit. What is the status of my company? And once you click on update, this message will come to us via email and an alert will also show up in our system. Our GR executives will in turn go ahead and interact with you via the system. And as you see that there is a footprint that has been created for the communication that is going on between your company's representative and task representatives, which allows you to keep a track of all the communication and all the statuses that your company is going to go through as we take the journey to incorporate your business. So this, in a nutshell, is a very simplified system which allows you, like I said in the beginning, to interact, track, and have a broader understanding of where your journey is at. Thank you. We are now here to answer all your questions. Um, I believe I saw a few questions popping up, so give me a second over here. I think we have a question from Muhammad Tausif. Says, what are the processes as well as NOC clearance if I want to open a new company startup in Saudi Arabia? Uh, Tausif, thank you for your question, first of all. Now, look, the entire ecosystem right now is not built for an existing expat to open a company with an NOC. This is a very UAE terminology, wherein companies do provide NOC, no objection certificates to individuals so that they can get into business ventures. In the kingdom, if you want to open up your own company, either a company has to open a branch or a LLC, or as an individual, you will have to take up a premium ikama in order to open up a company. I hope that answers your question. I think we have another question. How can I get the project as freelance? Okay, now I'm assuming your question is whether you can get a freelance license. So as an expat, you cannot. However, as a Saudi national, you can get a freelance license through which you can get, uh, various government projects through the MISA website. Do we have any further questions?
Yeah, there's actually a very interesting question in the chat. So Mother Islam is asking whether equipment rental would be a service. And this is actually something that we were just liaising with Misa on. So rental does qualify as a service, but our recommendation would be that you check with Misa whether the specific equipment or product that you're renting out qualifies for the services license rather than the commercial license. Now, if that same equipment was being bought or sold, then it's a straight up commercial license. However, rental could allow you to qualify for the services license.
And
It's
look,
a
you have to also understand the differences, right? So the moment you have a trading as an activity on your license, at that very moment, you're supposed to first of all fulfill the number one mandate, which is 30 million paid up capital. So I think that's what Aditya is trying to specify. Okay, so I think Mazhar, you have a follow-up question. Assuming that I transferred my sponsorship under an acquaintance who is a Saudi national, will I be able to apply for an investor license? The answer is no, Mazhar, because even if you transfer your sponsorship to a Saudi national, you would still remain to be an expat. So only a Saudi can apply. All right, so I have a question from Abdullah. I have one question for two types of licenses. One is a branch of a marine UAE company and investment company. What are the requirements and what is the recommended zone for licenses? Is both license need Saudi national? So Abdullah, you do not basically. So there are look, there are company types in the kingdom. There's one company type which is called as the Saudi company, which is owned and run by a Saudi national or a Saudi law firm. The second type is known as a GCC license, wherein a GCC national Any national from UAE, Oman, Qatar, Kuwait can come over here and open up a company, and that will be considered as a KSA owned company. And then you have got 100% foreign ownership, which you can have by opening up the company through MISA. The difference between the first two and the last is that for the last one, your first application goes to MISA because it's 100% foreign owned entity. For number one, Saudi, and for the number two, GCC national owned companies, you directly approach Ministry of Commerce. So that's the process. Mazhar, I think your follow-up question is, so in that case, what is my option? I must apply for a premium IQAMA and then apply for the investor license. The answer is absolutely yes. Okay, do we have any further questions? All right, so we'll wait for another 5 seconds. Right. So thank you very much for all your time. It was very nice, answering your questions. If you have any other questions in mind, you can scan the barcode in front of you, and you can book a meeting with either Aditya or myself, and we'll be more than happy to answer any questions and guide you on the future course of action. Thank you all, and have a good rest of the day.
Thank you.